we're going to have a panel all about cybersecurity, and it's a great pleasure to welcome the moderator for this panel, who is the Global Head of Strategic Partnerships at Telefonica Open Innovation. Please give a very warm welcome to Agustin Moro from Telefonica Open Innovation. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, good morning everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. I'm super happy because we've got a great panel with great panelists, and we would like to see which are the main trends in cybersec right now, with so many new businesses arising around the digital, and mobile business, and also all the threats and all the dangers that this entails, and how we can protect our networks and we can protect end users. So with no more delay, I would like to invite to the panelists, please, Daniel, Sonia, Steve, Rahul, and Ramesh. A big applause for the panelists too. Thank you. So we have Ramesh from Telefonica, who would be bringing what's the industry view on this. We have also three great entrepreneurs, Daniel from Blueliv, Steven from Rivetz, and Rahul from Redsift, who would give the entrepreneurial view and also share with us which are the main challenges when it comes to fundraise, when it comes to working with corporates. And Sonia from Kibo can bring the view of a venture capital fund operating in Europe, generalistic, but also with super nice startups from the cybersec spectrum in her portfolio. I would like to first, before jumping into the discussions, to give you the floor to each of you and say what your company does, what's your unique selling proposition, and maybe give us some flavor of what's your background. Maybe Daniel, we can start with you.
Okay, hi everyone. So first of all, it's a pleasure to be here with my colleagues. We are Blueliv. I'm the CEO and founder of the company. We fight the bad guys. So basically, in 2009, we realized that the security vendors were not enough to stop the emerging cyber threats. So we decided to create a new technology. This technology, let's say that is a kind of the eyes of the companies on the internet. So what we do is that we study the bad guys, what kind of techniques are using, what are the threats that are targeting the companies, and we give to our clients kind of early warning advice, as well as we have the capacity of uncovering logins and passwords and credentials. So nowadays, 10 years later, we have an international company, thanks to investors that they are Kibo, Telefonica, and Bento, and with more than 150 clients from the Fortune 2000 in 30 countries. And we are around 72 employees, okay? So regarding my background, I'm a recognized ethical hacker here. I'm not going to reveal my nickname, as you can guess, but I've been working in cybersecurity for many years.
Okay, thank you very much, Daniel. Maybe afterwards, yeah, you can explain what you're doing with Telefonica. Sonia, you also have a great background on digital businesses, having worked in Mercado Libre, in Match.com. Yeah, please tell us about what Kibo does, but also, yeah, what you have done on your
Okay, great. Thank you, Agustin. Thank you for the panel. I'm currently working as a partner at Kibo Ventures. Kibo Ventures is one of the VC funds in Spain. We have geography focus. We mainly look for entrepreneurs that are based in Spain or Spanish entrepreneurs anywhere in the world that have operations in Spain. We're sector agnostic. We can invest in any sector. We have made several investments in cybersecurity. And we basically do Series A rounds, first tickets from between 1 to 3 million, and really looking for great teams to work with locally. In terms of my background, I was an entrepreneur before turning into investor. Previously an investment banker, then went to business school, then became an entrepreneur and worked with different digital companies. So I have more of a digital background by trade in a way. And I've been doing VC for the last 3 years and really, really enjoying being on this side of the world. So.
Thank you, Sonia. Steve, yeah, we had a super interesting discussion before, and I think, yeah, you from Rivetz, you're bringing a really innovative view on what identity protection is and how to get this to a market in the mobile industry. Yeah, tell us about.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for having me on the panel. So my name is Sprague. I'm CEO of Rivetz. I come from 20 plus years, I probably don't even want to admit how long, in the trusted computing space, and been instrumental in trying to put hardware security in many of the devices that you already have. And Rivetz is a company we started a few years ago. We're heavily involved also in the blockchain space, but we're trying to put that embedded security to work for you. And what does that mean? It means making your passwords go away, giving you a safe place to store your keys, providing you a vault within your device. Not a vault in software, but a vault in hardware, because in the ARM processors in your phone is already a trusted execution environment, a secure enclave. And so we're putting that technology to work to properly protect your keys. Recently, we've done a joint R&D project with Telefonica, because do you really want to just trust one manufacturer? We're humans, and we all make mistakes. Recently, Intel lost all their keys. A few years ago, Gemalto lost all the keys. This is going to continue on. We're going to continue losing all the keys. And so what we've done is we've done an environment where we protect your private key within the secure enclave. We can do that for a Bitcoin wallet or on a 500 million phones. But then we wrap that with an application that runs within the SIM architecture. So now you have two isolated roots of trust. One whole supply chain that is your carrier, and all the benefits you get of the carrier being able to turn on and off capabilities within a SIM, and your key protected within the device, so you get all the benefits of the performance of a full ARM processor and all the capabilities that come within the device, but fundamentally you're trusting two people to protect your keys and not one. And so that way, when somebody makes a mistake, hopefully they don't make the same mistake at the same time, right? You only break one thing at a time, we don't lose our keys. And so that's part of our mission, is to really help you moving forward, because we're starting, it's sort of fun here at MWC. Every booth you go to is going to give you another key. Where are you going to put them all? How are you going to manage them? Like, what's your Airbnb experience in 10 years in the smart home of the future, right? When I got to download 400 keys just to operate the hot tub, the lights, the refrigerator, the dishwasher, the coffee machine, you know, et cetera. But I'm only allowed to have the keys for 2 days. And so it's going to be an interesting model going forward in how we make that all work. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I think, yeah, you can have security without privacy, but you cannot have privacy without having security. So I really like, yeah, this seamless approach and the all in one hand, all security in one hand. Rahul, you have been an entrepreneur since a long time ago. You have built software that has been distributed to more than 100 million customers. And you now have started a new business with Redsift that came to Guaira through this program with GCHQ. Tell us what you're doing right now with this email impersonation solution and with this platform.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I like to say I've sort of been in the entrepreneurial game since before it was cool. I think back in 2001, I said I was working for a startup, and people asked me if I wanted a real job. Back then, I was technical architect for Shazam, which I'm sure most of the people in the room now know. And my claim to fame is that I made the first version of the app. So that little app that was sort of magical was my weekend project. Since then, I've been involved in other entrepreneurial businesses, having created and sold a mobile data platform to Thomson Reuters Corporation. Over there, I was VP of Applied Innovation for a couple of years. We built some really, really cool new products, especially for enterprise customers. And now I'm focused on trying to move the needle for cybersecurity. So we have a data platform that we currently use to deploy against modern email threats. So think about phishing, think about spear phishing, the sorts of things that your spam filters are never going to catch. We deploy an authenticated email platform that removes a lot of that risk, and we're currently working on a second product that uses sort of machine learning techniques to remove a lot of the risk that's left. So our intent is to basically make email a medium that all of us use, whether we like it or not, a much lower risk factor than it is today. I think current stats show that close to like 91% of attacks have some sort of email component associated with them. And we're currently doing this for organizations such as Telefonica, of course. We're out in the UK. In the UK, we do a lot of work with government. We do a lot of work in professional services. So about 4 out of the 5 top law firms in the UK use us for all of their email communication. Strangely, in another role, I'm also on the board of directors for one of the largest retailers in the UK, the Co-op Group. And over there, my sort of contribution is to try and figure out how do large organizations move in a modern, agile, digital way, especially when they're large legacy organizations, and how do they do that in a way that sort of puts the customer at the center, which is, obviously one of the big challenges that organizations that are not used to this sort of customer-centric view have.
Thank you. So Ramesh is leading the partnerships unit within ElevenPaths, which is the cybersec division for Telefonica. I think we telcos have to play a key role in the proactive detection and recovery for threats in this digital environment with so many new businesses that we were saying before. Tell me what's Telefonica approach and yeah, what's what you're doing right now and also about your background, because yourself you're also an entrepreneur, a former entrepreneur. Many questions in a row.
Yeah, I will try to synthesize. Thank you, Agustin, and thank you for being here. Telefonica has a cybersecurity global unit, so we are responsible for defining all the cybersecurity portfolio for the global group, and then this portfolio is being sold by our 17 different telco companies in different countries. So what we act more as a factory of product and services. Our main business is to sell what we call managed security services. So that means that we manage the security for our customers, and we are responsible for all type of business, from large accounts, SMEs, and even residential security. So we try to build all this. And how do we build it? I would say 80% of what we do is third-party technology. So we reach agreement with large corporations, mid-sized corporations, and also startups. So we're trying to be aware about what are the security innovations in the market, to be leading and to be at the edge of the market. And the 20%, we try to build our own technology, because we don't want to be just a reseller. We want to add some value to our customers. So we try to mix everything and to build an innovative and portfolio. About my career, I've been 30 years old, jumping between startups and multinationals. It seems that I didn't find my place yet, but so I've been in companies like Microsoft and NCR, American companies, and also own companies. And last time I just started a new startup in the cybersecurity space, and 4 years ago we've been acquired by Telefonica, and here I am.
Okay. So 2020 is the proportion of solution coming from third parties and solutions built in-house. Yeah, I guess that's the reason of this event and 4 years from now. So entrepreneurs bringing view into the industry and bringing solutions to complement our strategy and leveraging the existing customer base. So I would like now to address like the second block of this panel and telling the audience how corporates and startups work together. Before that, I would like to get a view of and a flavor of who's our audience. How many startups or entrepreneurs are sitting here? Can you raise your hand, please? Okay. How many corporates are sitting in the room? Also a good bunch. Accelerators. Students? Nice. Talent. And investors? Okay, nice. So, Rahul, what have been your main barriers and the main challenges when it comes to work with big corporations, with your new company, with Redsift? Um,
Yeah, I think it's scale and it's speed, right? Because I think most startups operate naturally on a very rapid clock, and most corporates don't. I think when most corporates think about innovation, it's sort of it's perceived as one of those sort of like distracting, risky things. So a lot of organizations try and push innovation to the side, where it's not business as usual. It's something that they can experiment with in a safe playpen. And I think that doesn't really move the needle for either side of the equation, because obviously startups want to have a meaningful impact that they can turn into an economic return when they engage with large corporates. And large corporates really want to engage with startups in a manner that allows them to move ahead of where they are today in some sort of like step change kind of way. And when you sort of do innovation sort of off the side, away from the business as usual, you have a hard time making those things actually happen. So I think there's a cultural mismatch in some ways. So just sort of making things work at timescales that are relevant for a startup is problematic. And I think the second thing is scale, because obviously if you look at a large organization who's maybe 5 to 50 billion in revenue, the startup wants to arrive and make an impact, and it might be a really significant impact from their perspective if they think about the dollar value of whatever they're adding. But potentially from a large corporate perspective, it may not even begin to move the needle for them. So I think getting that kind of alignment in and really understanding where the maximum points of leverage are, that is always a challenge. And we see this changing, certainly, and I think there are lots of organizations, Telefonica certainly included, that are very progressive about the way that they want to engage and actually derive value from these startups, because they know that there is a lot of existential risk in the way things are changing and the sorts of solutions that tomorrow's customers will be using. So there's certainly a lot of openness, but there's still it's a big organization, and it's not a homogeneous organization. We all know in our own small organizations how difficult it is to sort of communicate effectively, to have a very sort of unified worldview. If you scale that up to a 50,000, 100,000 person organization, those challenges just get amplified. So I think just getting a mindset of what the large corporate is really facing when you sort of go into them is something that I think especially a lot of first-time young entrepreneurs or even jaded entrepreneurs like myself, sometimes struggle with.
Okay. Any trick on how to finding the sweet spot? I think it's a matter of finding the proper person within the organization.
Yeah, and also looking for the point of maximum leverage. So I think it's a question of what do we have, what do they have, what are we good at, what are they good at. It sounds very simple, but often it is. I mean, one simple example is you can look at data, right? Everyone talks about data, and data is one of those moats that makes it difficult in some cases for startups to succeed, because they may have amazing AI, ML techniques, domain expertise, but often they don't have the data sets that they need. Conversely, large corporates often have lots of data. They just don't know what to do with it. It sits in their data lake in some corner somewhere, and they say, one day we'll figure out how to get value from this. If you can find the right startup in the right place, they can use their agility and their expertise to unlock economic value in that data set, which would otherwise go completely unnoticed. But actually making this work is always a lot harder than the reality of it. But those are places where you can see a real leverage point between those two parties.
Okay, thank you. Daniel, so Blueliv has been up and running since 2009. So tell us about your investment process and which have been your pitfalls, also your next steps for the company.
Okay, I think that it's a very interesting question. I'm going to try to be very, let's say, smooth with the answer. I think that looking for funds looking for money is kind of tango, it's kind of dance. You need to control many factors, but from my point of view, the main aspects are, one, you need to look for smart money, and that means that you have a good product and you have a very good go-to-market strategy, you can easily get money, okay? You will get the attention from the investors. But when you are looking for money, you need to look for investors that, one, they have a good network. They can help you to move to the next stage. In our case, that's what the case with Kibo and Telefonica. They have a nice portfolio, so these companies inside this portfolio could be your clients, or could be, let's say that technologies that can complement your own technology. And another thing that I really, really appreciate is that you need to look for someone who has the capacity to be close to the entrepreneur. I mean that in our case, Kibo, they were able to put able to put themselves in our shoes, and this is very important because normally in the early stage you need a lot of advising, and this is important. The second thing from my point of view that is important is that you need to have the good team ever. I mean that you don't have the good team, you have a problem because you are a single pane of failure. So you need to be surrounded by the best employees that you can hire, and you need to have a very clear segregation of functions, and I mean that you need to be surrounded by the best ones. So you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go together, go far, go together. Go fast, go together, that's it. And the third point, I think, is that the lawyer advice, okay? I mean, you need to have legal advisors that can help you to manage the negotiations. Because normally the investors, they are doing investments once, twice, 3 times at the week, and you are going to do this maybe once per year or once every 3 years. So you don't know at the beginning any kind of idea about what are the terms, I don't know, tag along, drag along, and so on. So you need a very good legal advice to do this. Okay. Okay, about the next steps. Well, it's an interesting question. I think that with our company, I think that could happen 3 things. What can happen is the first one that we continue increasing the sales and evolving the product. We are working in collaborative models to fight the bad guys because the cybercrime is an industry, and we need to, let's say, to pivot the company to fight these new problems. The second thing is that we can be, let's say, a big player can buy us out. This could be a tricky thing because if someone is going to buy your company, you need to at least to look for a project where you can fit very well and where you can develop your strategy, at least if you want to do it. I think that's, as well as Rahul said, there is kind of cultural barriers many times that you need to take into account. And the third thing that could happen is nowadays the security market is a hot topic, and there are a lot of mergers and so on. So from my point of view, it's not a cool option to have a merger because it's quite difficult, because you need to, let's say, exchange shares, you need to maybe remove some job positions. I think it could be some kind of conflicts during these kind of operations, and that could happen. My first option is to continue growing with the growth and evolving the product, because we are enjoying fighting the bad guys. Nowadays we are the good guys, so that's pretty good.
Okay, thank you. So Steve, when it comes to Rivetz, you've got this customer-centric approach to cybersec, and you also have a vision that would bring back control to carriers and to telco industry about the identity issue of end users. So elaborate a bit more, please, around what you're doing, and also what do you think that blockchain is bringing you to this table and to your value proposition?
Sure. So I had a very fun experience in 2014. I had a friend who called me up and said, you should go to Miami for the weekend and go to the Miami Bitcoin conference. And it was minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit outside at home in Western Massachusetts. And I called my wife and I'm like, I just started a startup. I'm like, I'm going to Miami for the weekend. And it was a fascinating experience because I'd come from years of enabling hardware in the consumer device so that you would have a safe place in a hostile territory of a compute environment to hold your keys. And we knew that the future model was a device identity-centric model. So in the future, you are not going to have Windows for Workgroups hooking your laptop to your printer. Forget all this 5G stuff they're brainwashing you with. The most important 5G application is file, folder, and print. Like our printers don't work at all, right? You sit at the kitchen table, you turn on the laptop, and you can print. Flip the switch on the side of your laptop and switch it from like Wi-Fi to 4G. Can you print? No, it forgot your printer, right? Your printer's hooked to the Wi-Fi. It doesn't know anything. What if we could make the printer a friend of your laptops? Like, let's give the printer a Telegram account, and we'll give the laptop a Telegram account, and now on an identity basis, the two things can chat with each other. Cool. You can take your laptop to the space station, and it'll still chat with your printer. And I don't know about everybody else here, but between WeChat, WhatsApp, Telegram, and I don't know, I have a dozen of these things now, they work pretty well. Like, we get upset when the WeChat thing isn't working, talking to the guy driving his car in Beijing while you're riding on the subway in London, and it's like, gee, the connection's really terrible. You know, it's like, it's amazing the thing works at all. So that was cool. We could see that picture, but where are all the keys? How do I manage them? I'm a consumer. Somebody's gonna have to help me with all these keys. That's what blockchain is. Blockchain is the ability for the consumer who's at the middle. The consumer's in charge. There is no one else in charge of blockchain other than the owner of the private key. Can now make all my things friends with each other. And so my collection of devices is my identity. So like, I want to make a wallet. Well, gee, I want to give the wallet to the TV set, to the car, to the other device. I want to share the baby cam to these things. I want to do it securely. Now, what's fun about blockchain is we're beginning to conduct the experiment. So, money is the demo. First thing they did with blockchain is they invented this thing called Bitcoin. They put money on, and then all of a sudden, like, I can send money to Ramos anywhere in the world, nobody's watching. That turns out not to be a really good idea. The regulators thought that was just a horrendous idea, and they're trying to put that genie back in the bottle because we put the user in charge. And now we're trying to regulate the consumer. It's easy to regulate telcos. Like, we can call you up, we can pass rules, we can, like, they have a board of directors, we can tell them what to do, we can sue them, we can do all. This is like mom trying to control the user. Like, don't send money cross borders without permission. Turns out that doesn't work at all. And so we've been conducting this experiment in Bitcoin with money to understand what happens if we give the user control. And we're about to give them control over communications. And so when you hear here that we're going to put the user at the center, you have to ask, how? Well, we're going to have to give them keys, and we're going to have to give them an ability to manage keys, because what we described as your collection of devices being your identity is that we're allowing every consumer to start their own carrier. It might only have 25 things on it that are its subscribers. They might not even be being paid every month, but that collection of things is the network. And so it's a fascinating way to sort of think through the problem and how we change it. So for me, it's been, how do you have a clear vision? How do you execute every day on that vision, given the assets that you have? Some day you have cool things, some days the world changes, you know, whether it's money, people, industry circumstances. And I think those are the opportunities that you pull together to try and drive that vision forward every single day. But I think we should all get up every morning with a vision that changes the world for the better. And that's what we're trying to do. I'm trying to make the internet suck less. Because today, we haven't helped you at all. We haven't given you the tools and technology to operate this stuff. We're asking you to remember passwords. We haven't given you the tools for all your things to play with each other, to talk to each other. You don't have a digital identity today. We haven't given you one in 30 years. Kind of with email a little tiny bit, but it's not very good. And we've never given you e-commerce. We do it in bricks and mortar brilliantly, but we've never given you the ability to send a message online that's real. And so we're beginning to discover fake news, and it's a problem. What you don't realize is that all the data is coming from unknown compute. We need to help that problem. So cybersecurity is critical, but don't think of it as security. Think of it as quality. We're here to produce higher quality data so that the information you store and the information you keep, the information you create is what you intended and that it's provably real.
Thank you, Steve. Rames, on the telco industry side, so how does this vision fits with the overall vision of the telco industry? And on the second part, I would like to ask, so you as responsible of the partnerships and of engaging with startups, how do you make sure that you engage with the best solutions and you make that collaboration possible?
Okay, I would try to answer first the second question.
Okay.
When I was thinking about how to make useful this intervention, I just imagine or trying to explain how do we choose those companies in the market. So, as you probably know, security or cybersecurity is made up for three main ingredients, which are, of course, technology, which is important, but also there are procedures and people. So there are four main reasons that we invest or we choose a partner in cybersecurity. Let me start with the people. Normally, we run SOCs. There are security operation centers. There are a lot of analysts and technical people there. So any help to improve the skills of those people will be very important to us. So training those people or even investing in companies that are experts, subject matter experts in some of the areas of cybersecurity is important for us. The second one is procedure. So we try to automate all the tasks that we do in the security operations center because we want to do more with less people, so be more efficient. So automating all the tasks that we do, it's really important. And the third one is of course technology, but technology is not the only thing that we look. So we are not always searching for the coolest feature. We do not need the techno ninja machine learning algorithm. So what we need is technology that makes us more efficient, more predictable, and that let us manage better the security of our customers. So we search for, don't think of the coolest things, think that solving problems that are in a day-by-day basis. And the last one, normally we search for innovative things, but this is the less, I would say that could be the 10% of what we search. I call it the hook technology. They help us to go into a customer and say, look, I have this technology, this is really nice. Then the customer opens his doors, let you explain what you have, but finally what you are selling is the managed security service. So it's a way of marketing rather than what you sell. So that's the main result. Our plan normally is we have a plan, it's called 164-2-1. I know it's not a good marketing name, but it means that we at least review 100 companies a year. We choose to sign 16 commercial agreements, new ones, on top of what we have. We invest in 4 new companies, means seed capital. We invest Series A or B in at least 2 new companies, and we try to acquire the IP of one of them. So that's our goal in a year. So we are really busy on that.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like it makes sense, no, having this funnel. I guess it's also a challenge in organizations for the chief information security officers to convince the organization on investing on cybersec solutions, because at times it's difficult to prove the impact on business, no, of all this protection, which might not direct revert into revenues. So yeah, maybe we can speak about that later, because before Sonia, I would like to know also what's the view of an European venture capital fund on the cybersec spectrum, and how do you find the best cybersec startups? How do you support your portfolio when it comes also to being the interface with other companies or with big corporations and getting them into that funnel?
Yeah, no, we definitely, as Daniel was saying, cybersecurity is a hot space. There was a 5 billion investment in cybersecurity in 2018. 4 billion of that was in the US. Europe is about 500 million, and 500 million in Asia. So Europe has a role to play, but definitely the market is in the US. So I think one of the best ways that we can help support our companies is definitely scouting companies that can be created in Europe, but helping them expand internationally. And one example of one of our portfolio companies that started in Madrid, and they're now based in Massachusetts, in the Boston area, and that's, you know, one of the things that that we can help them with is how can we get them to scale? How can we get them to reach global markets? And you know, sometimes it's a challenge with teams that are based locally. I think we have good relationships with international investors, and that provides value when, you know, the companies are looking to raise more money. But even in the execution side, you know, our relationship with corporates is also quite important. Telefonica has played a big role with some of our portfolio companies in the cybersecurity space in terms of validating the product, being a very supportive customer. But yeah, the challenge for us is really, you know, how can we make European companies compete with the US companies, and really being conscious of the fact that the US money is what's going to be, you know, driving the next round. So how can we make these companies more visible in the US and get them to tap the US market? So.
Great. So yeah, let's talk about the future and the trends of the industry. We addressed already like the challenge of selling cybersec products, but I guess yeah, security should play a key role and in our offering, Ramesh. How do we integrate this with the overall offer of connectivity, and what's the right to play of corporates and of telco industry when selling cybersec to end users and to corporations?
Well, it depends on the market, but on a residential market, when you're thinking about cybersecurity, it's something like an attribute that you don't pay for it. You expect to be included in what you are paying for. I mean, it's like buying a car. You don't pay for an ABS or airbag, and you expect to have it inside. So sometimes we try to find those attributes in the market, and to add those security attributes just in our communication offering. So when we are going to the residential or SOHO market, and on the other hand, when you go to the business to business, we try to add value to other sectors, like selling cloud services, IoT services, or because paying just for cybersecurity is like a mess for the customers.
Rahul, so when it comes to Redsift, how do you think? What do you think you should do to remain competitive and to make sure, yeah, that email impersonation on your platform is not just a widget, but has like an integral value proposition for enterprises? How to be relevant to corporations?
Yeah, well, I think you know, we're more than email. In principle, what we're focused right now is sort of the biggest threat vector. So, you know, I'm an engineer, so I like to think about where's the big problem. Can we solve that in a scalable way? If we can solve that in a scalable way, let's do that first. And you know, email is frankly the worst thing from a security perspective that's out there right now. And we've seen, quarter on quarter, the rise, both in our customer base and in industry, of email-borne attack, because the ROI is great, right? It's pretty simple for someone sitting in a far-flung place to sort of fire off 150 phishing emails, even if they get like a 1% return on their attack. That's actually pretty significant versus trying to find a weakness or a 0-day or any of the complicated stuff that's out there. But I think one trend that we are seeing is sort of what I'd like to call consumerization of the enterprise. I mean, especially when you think about cybersecurity, and this sort of goes to the point that Steve was making earlier. I think when we talk about the user being at the center, what does that mean? And I think one of the things that we spend a lot of time thinking about is that if the user's at the center, especially in the context of cybersecurity, we're talking about products that are, that are built with the user in mind, that are usable, that are, dare I say, delightful. I mean, I think it's safe to say most people don't have a very positive relationship with their cybersecurity vendor, but that's sort of changing. And if good security is meant to be used, it has to be usable. So, once again, we're trying to take a lot of that consumer mindset that you might be applying in a sort of B2C business and say, how is that relevant for the enterprise customer? Whether it's the CISO, whether it's the ops guy, or whether it's actually in front of the end user, putting them at the center of the model to try and build something that actually works for the pain that they're feeling on a day-to-day basis. So those are the sorts of things that we think about when we think about building something that's truly relevant, truly sticky, and has a long-term future.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, I would have liked to get Steve experience on the ICO round that you raised, and also Sonia, your views on that. Daniel, on how you leverage corporates to access the B2B market, but unfortunately, yeah, we are already out of time. So yeah, I think it's clear now that embedded security has to be transparent. Yeah, for customers, had to not disrupt operations of corporations or even of lives when it comes to individuals. And yeah, I think cooperation, between corporates and startup is not an option; it's a must. So I think, yeah, it's an enriching collaboration, and something that's compulsory, to the whole industry. So thank you very much for being here, and yeah, big applause to our speakers. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.